ago. 2
Moore
weeks
looks
later
a little,
gets in. And
yeah. And we mentioned he's been impressive in 2 fights, taking on 2 heavyweights when he's probably more of a light heavyweight.
about as large of a weight disparity as you'll see in MMA, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have a guy who comes in just over the light heavyweight limit, and a guy who almost meets the heavyweight limit at 265 pounds. Julius Moore was weighed in at 259. So the paramedics taking a look here at Julius Moore. He's just exhausted here after that fight. That was a action-packed fight for heavyweights. That
Yeah,
was.
for sure.
Blistering pace that's don't see a lot with heavyweights,
Yeah.
especially guys who just are a few fights into their career.
Yeah.
But that's a guy right there, Travis Branham, to keep an eye on here moving forward. 2-0 now with 2 impressive wins, and you see just the blood streaming out of the lip, and I think he's probably pretty happy about that.
Branham reminds me of the strongman competition winner, Pujanowski.
2 minutes and 59 seconds of the first round.
Just shorter and 150 pounds less.
Stoppage due to unanswered strikes. Travis Branham.
Travis Branham now 2-0, as we mentioned. Picking up a nice win. 2 wins in 2 weeks, and I think he might take a couple of weeks off here after that. And, definitely has been impressive through 2 fights, so we'll see what is in the future for him.
Pretty fast-paced to Hardrock MMA 91 thus far.
3 fights, 3 stoppages in the first round. I thought we were going to get out of the first round, but made it to 2:59 of round number 1, but as far as you can go
Yep.
without making it to the second round. A lot of these early fights, you'll see guys, you'll see a lot of times they'll go pretty fast.
Yeah.
When we get some of these more experienced guys and guys that able to protect themselves a lot better, and the other thing is the referee won't usually give you as long of a leash in your first couple of fights.
Yeah, usually not. As much as people are like, oh, I was robbed on this or that. They, whatever. At the end of the day, the referee's there to protect you. And if he feels you're not able to do it yourself, then he's there to save you. He's not there to make you lose or anything like that.
Or to be your friend necessarily. If you're pissed at him,
Yeah.
I mean, that's on the ref as to when he stops it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Moving on to a lightweight fight here. We've got Matt Moore and Kalan Kumpf. Matt Moore coming out of Maysville, Kentucky, 1-2. Team Kraken. Kalan Kumpf is 1-0 out of G-Force in Cincinnati, Ohio. Moore making his way to the cage here. 19 years old, looks to even his record. Is 1-2 thus far in his career. Made his debut last year and lost to Perry Stargell out of Vision, so a tough guy. And then picked up a win at Hardrock 77 in February, and then lost to Zach Davis last June at Hardrock 80. So this is his first fight in over 13 months. Been a while since we've seen him in the cage.
Yeah. Hopefully in that time he's been working hard and training and getting better.
And you almost kind of ignore that loss to Perry Stargell in the first. Perry is a really tough guy, and Perry also, you see Matt Moore down at 155. Perry's a really tough 170.
Yeah, he is. He's, and that they even fought at 55 is kind of astonishing to me because Perry's a really big dude. But
still waiting on Matt Moore to make his way out to the cage here.
It's got to be Zach De La Rocha, right? No? Who is that? No.
I don't know the reference.
So far,
the Rage Against the Machine lead singer. I think
Yeah.
that's who it is,
Yeah.
but I don't think that's Rage.
We'll see if we can't break the streak so far. We're 3 fights in, and the blue corner so far has won every fight.
I know that Kalan Kumpf out of G-Force MMA in Cincinnati, they always put out very tough fighters.
He was very impressive in his debut back at Hardrock 89 back in May. Got a rear naked choke win over Chris Annis in the first round. 21 years old, and one of the interesting things about Kalan is Charlie Stanford has kind of taken him under his wing, and I've seen a lot of posts with Charlie and saying, this guy's in the gym every single day, really tough guy.
Yeah.
And he's going to go a long way if you're in the gym every day at a gym like G-Force.
Yeah, exactly.
Still waiting for Matt Moore here to make his way to the cage. This might be the only thing that's able to slow down the
exactly.
pace so far.
Maybe they weren't anticipating such a quick first 3 fights, so they weren't ready.
I think they might still be checking, making sure Moore might be okay.
Oh, okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
That's a good point. I see the commission and the doctor are not cage side with us.
First time for Hardrock MMA at Northern Kentucky Convention Center. Very nice venue.
Yeah, beautiful venue. And we talked at the last Hard Rock show. Hard Rock has kind of a rotation of events where they'll do consistent, and this is the first one. Maybe hopefully add this to the rotation. I know they've held a couple of events in the past year at Turfway, and now moving even further north, which, of course, being from Cincinnati, I like, just right across the river. And not that Turfway is really that far out of the way, but it's a little bit further south and down in Florence. And this is a kind of a different venue here. You're right on the river, in Cincinnati. And really interesting, nice venue here.
Yeah, it was
one of the nicer venues that Hard Rock has been to. It reminds me a lot of the Paraquet Springs Convention Center in Shepherdsville, which is where we'll be in September for Hard Rock MMA 92.
Absolutely. When I first came in here, because, again, at Turfway, there's no AC, and the windows don't actually open. So then they just put up some box fans, which it's usually pretty stifling in there. So when I came in here, you got like a concession stand right by the door, and the AC was on. I was like, my nipples are hard, and I smell hamburgers. I don't know what's happening right now.
That's always a good feeling
That's
heading
some good
into
stuff.
an event.
That's a review from a former fighter, right?
Yes.
That's the type of stuff you notice
Exactly.
is which places have air conditioning.
Yes, it is.
We finally got Matt Moore. He's making us wait. Hopefully that, making a fashionably late entrance here to the cage. See, he represents Team Kraken.
Yeah.
Which I believe Nick Jewell used to train out of that gym, and now Nick is with Patriot MMA. Moore getting the final look over here before he makes his way into the cage.
And introducing his opponent, fighting out of the B2 digital blue corner, Kalan Kumpf.
Kalan Kumpf, second fighter here from G-Force on the night. 1-0 on his career, as I mentioned, had that win back at Hard Rock MMA 89. Rear naked choke over Chris Anderson. The thing that I remember thinking about him is he looked very poised for a guy to be in his first fight.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is like when we talk about that, again, training at G-Force, it's not like they're just going to throw you into a situation of, some places will just take a guy and they just want to get their name out there, so they'll stick anybody in a cage just to kind of get some recognition. Whereas G-Force guys, if they're going in, they're gonna be pretty well situated, and they've been through battles already before they even got in a cage.
I was gonna say, I believe the cliche is battle tested.
Yes, yeah. If they're letting you compete with their name on them, they're definitely not just throwing somebody off the street in there.
Exactly, and you see Charlie Stanford making his way there. Is going to be in the court, with Kalan Kumpf. Really close, as we mentioned, with Kalan. Also, Ron Gableman, gets one of the most respected coaches in this area, and has been taking his guys all over the state of Ohio and Kentucky and all over for a really long time. And I'm sure he's happy to be able to stay close to home here.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Get some fights for his guys. Kalan, just 21 years old, from Mount Orab, Ohio. Played football, baseball, and basketball in college, and also played college football for a year. said he started MMA just to get in shape at G-Force, and that's when they say, do you want to take a cage fight? And it's, okay,
Yeah.
you're ready.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this fight is in the 155-pound weight division. Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, weighing in at 155 pounds, representing the Kraken fight team from Maysville, Kentucky, Matt Moore. And introducing his opponent, fighting out of the B2 digital blue corner, also weighing in at 155 pounds, representing Team G-Force from Cincinnati, Ohio, Kalan.
Lightweight action here. Hardrock MMA 91.
Looks like Dr. Sparks is making his way to the cage now, so we should be able to get underway here. And there's Todd, so just within the next couple of minutes.
Lightweight action here, as we mentioned. Matt Moore in the white and silver. Colin Kumpf is in the red. Big John House, the referee for this one. Now the commission is back cage side. Should be set to go here momentarily. Matt Moore aggressive there early on. Not throwing anything that landed, but using it to follow in and get that clinch up against the cage.
He's going some nice knees to the body. And a nice trip on the way down.
Right into the guard of Kumpf.
Kumpf with that body triangle. Here, it's more of a defensive move, but really makes the guy tough to breathe when
Yeah.
the guy
Yes.
on top.
He's working for that left arm, it looked like.
Yeah, that body triangle make a guy think twice about jumping into your guard. Has that overhook on the left arm of Matt Moore. Looks like he might be looking for a sweep here. Kumpf doing a good job controlling the posture of Moore thus far. Moore looking to try to throw some shots here. See Kumpf slowly but surely creeping those legs up the back, looking maybe for a straight arm bar here.
Yeah.
And Moore looks like has his hands out or has his arm out.
Yep.
Kumpf now grabbing hold of that neck. Looks like he might be trying to sneak out the back door. Has control of the neck. Going to be tough. Doesn't really have the angle for the guillotine just yet. Also just has one arm in. Moore gets his head out there now. Grinding Colin Kumpf's head into the cage.
Kumpf had such long limbs. You know, he's able to, for one, keep a body triangle from the bottom almost the entire time.
Yeah.
And now he's twisting
even
to the point where he's going to take his back from that, which
Yeah,
would be
being very
phenomenal.
offensive. Being very offensive from that guard.
Of course, the positive of having long limbs is the ability to lock in a body triangle when a guy's in your guard. The negative is trying to close those small little gaps that open up.
Yeah.
See Moore not really doing a ton here. Scott, what's he got to do to try to posture up and be able to rain some blows down here?
Well, I mean, for one, with the body triangle being on him, so he can't really posture very far. And every time he does, Kumpf keeps grabbing for that arm, which he has it, again. So, I mean, right now he would, like, whenever he feels his legs come apart, he really needs a posture. Like, right now he would need to posture and get up.
You see Kumpf
From here,
with his legs, toes in the cage. John House telling him he can't do that. Now Matt Moore up on one knee.
Nope.
A couple of seconds left to go here in the first round. This is a tough round to score because there wasn't a ton of action. We saw Moore with the takedown, and Kumpf was looking for a lot of stuff on it off of his back, but unable to finish anything and lock anything in. I believe as a ref or as a judge, you have to give that round to Matt Moore just based off of that takedown and really just being able to keep that position on the top.
Sure.
Yeah.
Comes into what is the judge looking for when judging a round?
Yeah.
And Moore was obviously the guy on top pretty much that entire round. So if that's what you're determining, no submission attempts really.
And the tough thing about trying to play jiu-jitsu in an MMA bout is the fact that a lot of jiu-jitsu guys are comfortable off of their back. And you saw Kalan Kumpf looked really comfortable off of his back there. And we saw just the small things he was looking for, but really can judges pick up on that, pick up on the fact that he had that body triangle locked in the whole time, the fact that he was just switching his hips out and looking for that arm bar continuously. Yeah. Jiu-jitsu is a game of inches, and really that can get lost in translation a lot of times with the judges.
Yeah, it can. I mean, if they're uneducated in what they're looking at, then yeah. Like I said, it all depends, though. Some of them will look at it and be like, well, even though he was working for submissions and stuff and he did little things, Moore was still throwing punches. So it can kind of nullify, and then it becomes.
When I judged, they told me it was a simple formula. Who does the most damage?
Yeah.
Simple.
Yep.
Who does the most damage? So if you're looking for little nuances of jiu-jitsu, then that doesn't always translate to damage.
And could that be as simple as Kalan Kumpf's game plan going in was to kind of work on some things, working off your back in a live situation like this?
Yeah. And again, that's why they have amateur fights.
He did display some good guard, some offensive moves from the guard.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, not necessarily a super tall guy for the weight class, but has super long limbs, which is always going to help you in jiu-jitsu.
I had a pause in the action. I believe they
commission left cage side again here.
Yeah.
This is tough for the fighters. You get that 90-second break, what you're used to, and then you get more than a 90-second break, and it's tough. Or how do you stay warm? And it's tough to kind of keep decelerating and accelerating in between rounds.
For sure.
Here
Yeah,
so
especially
times.
when you got it took so long to even get the fight going, and then they got in, they had to wait even longer, and now we're at a standstill again. Again, things happen. Previous fights you can't go off that. I fought one time in Indiana in a couple fights before mine. A guy dislocated his knee, and they didn't want to move him out of the cage, so it took like 45 minutes before they got him moved. And immediately the fight after that, a guy got punched in the throat, so they had to call for another ambulance. And it was out in the middle of Indiana. And, of course, the nearest hospital only had one ambulance at the time, and it was transporting the other guy already. So we had to wait like an hour.
But you did end up getting to fight.
Yeah, we ended up fighting. By the time my fight started, it was 12:15 at night. And,
wow. Jeez.
Yeah. And we had to be at the venue at 4. So it was, a long time of waiting. But again, the safety of the fighters is what comes first. So, I mean, in the end, we all do this.
Is there anything that you do as a fighter knowing that anything could happen, knowing that there's a possibility that you could have a really long, wait or something like that? Is there anything that you kind of do to prepare yourself for kind of that worst case scenario?
Not really. Try to control your adrenaline dump and your nerves. And that comes with experience, like the guys who haven't fought much. This would shut a lot of people down, honestly, just for the fact of the adrenaline dump. They're all amped up. Now they got to cool down. Now they got to amp back up again. So that right there alone, even though you're not doing anything, you mentally and emotionally you wear yourself out. And again, it's just a matter of, unfortunately these things happen.
So Matt Moore in the first round scored a takedown and ended up in Kumpf's guard. What does Matt have to do in the second round?
Try to keep him standing. I mean, but he's, Moore being from, Kraken fight team, which is a lot of catch wrestling, things like that. So, he's probably going to want to go to the ground no matter what.
We saw him immediately throw a 2 or 3 punch combination and just try to follow that in, and immediately with the body lock and then the trip takedown. So That's probably what we can expect from him in the second round. And maybe one of the things that I always learn in grappling is when you're taking the fight to the ground, immediately get to a dominant position immediately. And if you can, do it on the way to the ground.
Yeah.
Don't land in a guy's guard, especially a guy who we've already seen has a good guard like Kalan.
Yeah.
Don't land in a guy's guard. Immediately try to work to pass, because the best time to pass is going to be within that first few seconds when you hit the ground.
Absolutely.
Still have a delay here in between round 1 and 2. And one of the things that was interesting is these guys didn't necessarily expend a ton of energy. It wasn't a super high pace first round. It was more of a tactical back and forth, really just small movements, a lot of just small mini transitions. So,
and as we said earlier, we don't know how the judges scored that first round. It could have went either way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of a coin toss as to what they were looking for or what they were thinking.
Hardrock MMA 91 brought to you live on Facebook or bluegrassmma.com or the YouTube page. Yeah. Yes. We're here at the Northern Kentucky Convention Center. I'm Kelly Patrick, alongside Scott Wegman, David McKinney. Appreciate you tuning in.
This is, one of the things I was thinking interesting. Hardrock usually they'll do, 6 shows a year, and they'll try to run every 6 to 7 weeks. This is two shows and the span of 2 weeks. So the last show was just 2 weeks ago, and already back at it here just 2 weeks later, and that's got to be tough putting together two full fight cards within just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And to have that many, and to still have 14, 15 fights on the card. That's a big thing.
If you look at a lot of these guys' Tapology or their websites where they document the fighters' rankings and their records, they're already scheduled for the next Hardrock fight. So Hardrock really seems to do, matchmaker Brandon Hardrock Higdon does a really good job at scheduling not only for this event, but he's scheduled a couple events out already.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys want to stay super active, especially early on in their amateur careers. They want to try to get a couple of fights under their belt so they have more tape to look at, more live action to look at. So this is a promotion that stays consistent, and you're going to be able to get a consistent fight, and that chances are if you're on the fight card, then or if you ask to fight, chances are you're probably going to be able to fight. So
yeah, absolutely.
A lot of fighters love fighting for Hardrock MMA. And one of the things that's nice too is now Hardrock has been doing great in Kentucky. Now coming up to Northern Kentucky, getting a lot of that Ohio crossover as well from Southwest Ohio and Cincinnati, and even a couple of guys from Indiana on this card as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And they definitely have made a good impression, and Brandon's always put on a good show. So a lot of he's a good guy too. So and that makes a big difference. Even if the promoter does a really good show or whatever, but he's an ass, no one really want to work with him. So, but Brandon's a good guy all the way around, and everybody likes him, and so that makes it really good that people want to fight with him.
Matter-of-fact guy. He doesn't seem like he takes a lot of.
No, he doesn't at all. And the thing is too is like he'll he's one that, like I say, he's a nice guy and he'll work with you and do whatever. But at the end, he definitely will. He'll put you in your place if you need it.
Anytime a promotion gets to 91 events, it's got to be a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 91 events with 100 on the horizon coming up, which probably will be at some point in 2018, and I'm sure that'll be a huge celebration for Hardrock MMA. And Brandon and Vanessa had they did about the first 89 shows themselves, and then actually sold the promotion back in June. And really, with B2 Digital and really just kind of helping take the promotion to the next level here in Kentucky.
For sure.
Traded on the stock exchange, one of two promotions that are traded. You've got another promotion now, B2 Digital, which owns Hardrock MMA.
Trading at BTDG. So that is interesting to follow. The being traded, taking that next step. Is that common among promotions that are local and regional, and then maybe they take the next step? What would be the next step beyond that? Would it be that they're going among different states?
Yeah, I think that's the question. I haven't really got the impression from Hardrock that they want to go much further than really Kentucky. Kentucky is a big enough state to be able to support as many shows as they do per year, and they do some shows in Shepherdsville, some in Louisville, all the way down to Bowling Green, and then up here in Northern Kentucky as well. So I don't necessarily get that impression. It wouldn't surprise me though, with the new financial backing and seeing this promotion grow over the past couple of years.
Scott, you fought for Hardrock before.
I have not.
Okay, but you
unfortunately,
said you had fought in this cage.
I have fought in this exact cage a ton of times, but yeah, not under Brandon, unfortunately. So hopefully one day, though.
I know we were talking.
I'm in my 40s. Maybe he'll do a seniors division or something.
I know we were talking, in the last event. Maybe seeing you back in there at some point. I don't know if I don't know what the status of that is. I won't put you on the spot here.
Oh no, it's good. It's just once you hit the big
4-0,
yeah,
right?
you gotta see Dr. Sparks and make a day trip out of it, and But again, it's a lot of people are like, oh, it's a giant pain and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's for your own well-being. So that way you just don't have some dude hopping in there that's not in shape.
You're 40 now. At what age did you make your debut?
I was 33.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I started late. It was just took time, and really I kind of did the same thing. I grew up boxing and things like that, and then really just started doing it in order to stay in shape over the wintertime. And I was helping people get ready for fights and things like that, and then my coach was like, hey, you should compete once. And I'm like, I don't really want to. And then I did it, and I was like, oh, okay, I like this. So then you go 13 fights later, and you're like, well, I guess I'll it's just something to do.
Yeah, it's one of those that a lot of people who do it, they say, hey, I'll do it once, and then all of a sudden that you wake up the next day and you have 13 fights under your belt.
Yeah. So amongst all this stuff that's happening,
yeah, you've still got two guys in the cage who are
trying to stay warm by moving around a little bit, but they're also trying to stay composed, not think too much. I'm a smiley, funny guy, so honestly, if I was one of them at this point in time, I would have called my opponent over and we would have just talked in the middle of the cage and played rock, paper, scissors or something for a little bit. I really would have.
That's how they decide the rest of the fight?
Yeah, I'd be like, let's just rock, paper, scissors this 2 out of 3 and we'll call it good.
That's if your opponent would have been down for that. You
That's
never
true.
know.
Well,
you never know. These two guys could be in two very different states of mind right now. We don't know. If you're their corner, what are you telling them right now? Obviously, you're fine, relax, just stay focused, all the cliche stuff.
Yeah.
But what can you tell them to help? Because we don't know how long this is going to take.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like really either corner is doing too much in terms of talking to their guy. I think that there's probably a tipping point where there's too much talk and too much coaching and too much.
There is, because then all of a sudden it becomes you start thinking too much and your corner's getting amped up, and then, like I said, you don't know when you're going to go again, so then you calm back down and then they amp you up again, and those spurts, those little spurts like that, they drain you. And, you also got to think, too, they're probably standing in there and, kind of wondering, well, we've been stopped this long. What's going on back there
that it's taken this long.
Yeah, so then you got that on their mind, too, I'm sure. So it's not just a matter of, let's get this going, I want to fight. There's definitely a lot that hopefully they keep a clear head and are able to get through it when it comes back time.
Seems like the corner of Matt Moore to me, and Matt seemed to be keeping it pretty lighthearted, having fun, doing a little paper, rock, scissors with Scott. You can't see it quite on the live stream, but Scott is suggesting to Moore that he gets Kumpf to play paper, rock, scissors with him. We'll see how that goes. Any luck on any traction there?
No, I don't think he bit into it. I was trying to kind of get him to relax a little bit and maybe loosen up, but he's too focused. He started to play with me until I pointed to go play with his opponent, and then he didn't want to do it.
This is the first 3 fights of the night went pretty off without a hitch, it seemed, and
Here comes the commission.
Okay.
The commission and Dr. Sparks.
Awesome.
Our man Todd Neal. Dr. Sparks. Round of applause for them, maybe? Yes.
Been a long couple of weeks for those guys, I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now they get that cheer from the crowd. It's the first round of applause I think Todd Neal's ever gotten.
In his life.
Yeah.
No, when he was Peter Perfect. Todd was actually a professional wrestler at one point on the local circuit.
But he was a heel, I'm sure,
He
right?
was a heel.
Yeah, so I can't imagine.
Back to it.
This is interesting. Guys going from 0 to 100,
Yeah.
immediately.
Go from idle back right into it.
Moore misses that kick, and now Kumpf, interestingly enough, almost seemed like he gave up that position there, but immediately now working. That's sort of a reverse Kimura here. Has the arm over the back of the head.
Getting right back into a somewhat similar position to what we were in last round.
Yeah.
And it's tough if you're Kumpf in this position. You might like being in this position, but the fact is you gotta
win the fight
unless you submit the guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Earlier we were talking about amateur fights. You can try to work on certain things, but there has to come a time where you're thinking, okay, I got to win this fight.
Yeah, now Moore looking to try to stand up now, has his base here, really just smothering Kumpf and not really looking to try to pass the guard here, interestingly enough. He seems to be content to hang out in the guard. The guard now is open for him to potentially pass. Now it's closed again, that body triangle.
Elbows to the face are not allowed. If they were, that would be significant in this position.
And that's something else, as a young guy, if you're Kumpf's corner, you say, hey, you know what, if you want to go pro, you got to think, man, you always have to think that those elbows could be coming.
Yeah.
And you don't want to give yourself bad habits to where you're leaving your face out there to potentially get elbowed.
Yeah.
John House stands him up.
Good.
Kumpf bringing it to Moore.
Throwing some combinations now. Some 1-2s are landing nice. Good double jab. Just slips out of the way.
Lands a nice jab there right to the nose, bridge of the nose. Moore shakes it off, which usually means he's been punched a couple of times.
Yeah. He's got a nice jab going for Kalan.
Kumpf really just digging in.
You can tell he works with Charlie Stafford on his boxing.
Really good boxing there. And you saw he seemed to be getting a lot of power from not even really, bouncing into those punches a lot.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. He was pretty stationary when he was throwing it. Just using his distance and using his reach really well.
Under 10 seconds left to go here in round number 2. Matt Moore back on top again. Now looking to try to posture up and throw some shots. And again, guys, that's another question of Kumpf may have done a little bit more damage, but he was in a bad position for 2/3 of that round at least.
Yeah.
I could certainly see 2 of the 3 judges scoring that for Moore.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. That's what I was going to ask. How would you score it if you were a judge? I know you have the judging experience. The Kumpf seems to be trying to work on some things here, but maybe if you're in his corner, this might be the time where you say, all right, now it's time to try to finish this guy. If you can, not saying that he's not trying to finish him, but maybe saying, hey, in order to win this fight, you need to finish because you probably are down 2 rounds on at least 2 scorecards.
What is Stanford telling Kumpf right now? Is, come on, man, we got to bring this to him.
That's probably what he's telling him, and I think if you're Moore's
don't pull
corner,
guard.
Yeah, I think if you're Moore's corner, you're saying let's do more of the same.
Yeah,
you're beating a guy who, really doesn't seem to be. Not that he's not interested in the fight, but he seems to be. If he's comfortable laying on his back trying to submit you, and if you're comfortable enough that you're not going to get submitted, which you've shown through 2 rounds, he hasn't really pulled off anything that was super close. You got to think, hey, let's go back to your bread and butter and let's get a double leg and grind this thing out on top.
Yeah, if it's working for you, just keep doing it.
Set to go here, round number 3. Matt Moore, Kalan Kumpf. Moore is the southpaw here, lands a nice short right hand there. Couldn't tell if that was an uppercut or not. There's a left hand that lands.
Oh, caught him with a head kick a little bit.
And Kumpf needs to keep his hands up here.
Yeah.
I guess Moore's corner maybe said, hey, let's throw some punches
Comes a
here.
knee to the head.
Has control of that neck here. Looking to try to take him to the ground.
Is he trying to guillotine? I don't know.
First time we've seen Kumpf on top here. Moore looking to maybe
sweep a little bit, but it's not really going for him.
Yeah, has that underhook on the right side.
Kumpf trying to move to side control.
Almost has that pass here. He's in half guard right now.
Back to guard. Well, let's see.
Oh, it's got like a little Nelson rolled him. Nice sweep.
Nice.
That was really nice.
And this is a
he's got him
potential
caught on that too.
submission here.
Yeah, got him a neck crank.
Kumpf right back to the body triangle.
And this, you're probably aware if you're a Kumpf's corner, you're telling him he has to get up. He can't hang out here for the rest of the fight.
Almost just abandon this and get up.
Yeah.
I mean, not that he, sure it's not that easy, but you don't want to be on your back.
And, to Matt Moore's credit, he's been doing a good job of staying heavy on top and not giving Kumpf any openings.
Yeah.
And Moore has brought a lot of the fight to Kumpf.
Now looking to try to pass on that right side is Matt Moore, and he has did a nice job pinning that knee down and getting that pass. Kumpf now back in half guard. Kumpf not trying to hip escape out. Now back to that full guard. And that's tough because you're in your guard and that's a safe position, but that doesn't win fights.
Yeah.
Moore now postures up here in the guard of Kalan Kumpf. Kalan pulls him back down now in that body triangle. And now it looks like
See,
Kumpf
the ref's
maybe
going to stand him up. Can't see that there's much time left on this. If to go for the knockout if you're Kumpf. Nice.
Kumpf landing some shots here.
He's definitely not scared to trade.
He's got his hands down here. Moore has his hands up. There's a right hook that lands over the top.
If I'm Kumpf's corner, I'm telling him he has to get a knockout here to win.
Yeah, there's, I believe, 10 seconds left.
Charlie Stanford yelling at him to finish here.
Time.
It's a good fight.
Good fight between two, guys with seem to have a lot of skills on the ground between both guys, and it seemed to really just be more of a stalemate on the ground. And when they stood and trade there for that last 15 or 20 seconds, that was pretty exciting, and it's going to be interesting to see how the judges score this one.
Yep, for sure.
We thought that Matt Moore most likely took the first 2 rounds, but did Kumpf do enough in that 3rd round to take at least that round? definitely a good growth experience for both guys there. Two guys with 4 fights combined between them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly expect to see both these guys back in the cage soon.
Definitely hope so. They both showed up to fight and dealt with the extended break in between rounds very, very well, and came out and.
For the decision, the official decision, give it up both for Kalan and Matt.
Two guys who showed a lot of poise in there early in their careers.
Yeah.
After 3 hard-fought rounds, the judges score the fight 29-28 for your winner by unanimous decision, Matt Moore.
All 3 judges giving Matt Moore what we would think were those first 2 rounds, and then
Great job, both of you.
likely giving Kumpf the 3rd round. And
Had to have been. I was very impressed by Matt Moore.
Yeah, for sure.